Welcome to another episode. I know you guys are sick of seeing me today. I'm sick of doing this, but I had somebody ask me a question about something about the other live stream I just did about Psalm 22, specifically about the words "Takabuya Deya Warijleye," and uh, and he was telling me how that if you look in the Hebrew, when it says they pierced my hands and my feet, he was saying the reason I'm doing this now is because if I don't do it, I'm not going to do it. So I just want to do it now, real quickly, before I go to work to deliver pizzas. And he was saying that in Psalm 22, when it says, when David predicted in Psalm 22 that Jesus would be crucified, and the most powerful prophecy in there is verse 16, which says, they pierced my hands and my feet. They pierced my hands and my feet. And this friend, Eid, he said, that's not what it means. It says it means like lions. And he sent me this, it's from a Muslim website that tries to cast doubt on biblical prophecy and stuff like that. But you know what? There is some merit to what he said. And that is that in the Hebrew, if you look at the original Hebrew in Psalm 22, when David wrote it, they pierced my hands and my feet. That the prophecy there, if you look Psalm 22, if you read all of Psalm 22, it's all a prophecy about the crucifixion. There's like 8 major prophecies about the crucifixion of Jesus Christ in Psalm 22. The first being the first verse, which is, my God, why have you forsaken me? Which is what Jesus said when he was on the cross. And when Jesus said that on the cross, my God, why have you forsaken? It was so people will go read. He's telling people, go read Psalm 22, because it was a prophecy about the crucifixion. And King David, prophet David, when he wrote that, it was such a unique prophecy because he's writing as if he's on the cross. King David is prophesying Psalm 22 as if he is on the cross. It is an unbelievable prophecy. It is so amazing. But my cousin brought up this point that in Psalm 22, the part that says, they pierced my hands and my feet. This is an amazing prophecy. They pierced my hands and my feet. I mean, in Arabic, thaqabu yadayya wa rijlayya. The amazing thing about this prophecy is that they weren't doing that in the time of David. This is 1,000 years before Jesus was born. Psalm 22 is 1,000 years before Jesus was born. And they weren't crucifying people at that time. They didn't crucify like that. Crucifixion began with the Persians. The Persians did it like about 300 years after David. They started doing it. But their crucifixion, which you read about in the book of Esther, is like they would impale people. They would impale, like Vlad the Impaler, not crucifixion, the way we recognize it from the Romans and what they did to Jesus. So the amazing thing about this prophecy is that David says, they pierced my hands and my feet, thaqabu yadayya wa rijlayya in Arabic. And so anyway, but my cousin was saying, and it's a very legitimate argument, the rabbinic argument is that this doesn't mean that verse in Hebrew does not mean they pierced my hands and my feet. And let me just look. You know what? I'm not sure if I want to show this just yet. Let me just go ahead and show you some of the some issues with the word that it's used in Hebrew there about the. Let me go ahead and I got this for you. I got some. I just want to show you some of these. This is what one guy says about this. A very important. What he says about the issue of there are variant readings in the ancient manuscripts regarding Psalm 22, which reflect a minor difference in the last letter at the end of the word, coincidentally, yud, which changes the meaning accordingly. And so the word, I'm going to show you the word. Here is what I'm going to show to you, the 2 Hebrew words. I'm going to show you quite a few things here, but I just wanted to answer this person, because if I don't do it right now, I'm not going to do it. I'll probably forget to do it. So I'm going to show you the Hebrew word, because there's actually the Hebrew word is, if you look at the Hebrew word, you can see how there could be a little bit of confusion about, because they're very similar. Here's the word in Hebrew. Okay, sorry, this is okay. Let me. Okay, sorry about this, you guys. I'm a little bit slow with the stuff, and okay. Let me just remove this for right now. I've just got too many things going on here, and so I'm not able to show you what I want to show you. Here, see, these are the two words. Okay. Now, if you see, okay, there are variant readings. Or let me say, first of all, I'm going to put that back up here. There are variant readings in ancient manuscripts which reflect a minor difference in the last letter at the end of the word, coincidentally a yud, which changes the meaning accordingly. So you have the one on top there, which means the word is like yadi, and it means like a lion, whereas the one on the bottom means pierced. And you can just see they're almost identical, except for that little very bottom of the letter there. And so some confusion about this, about is it like a lion at my hands and my feet, which doesn't really make sense, or they pierced my hands and my feet. They pierced my hands and my feet, or like a lion at my hands and my feet. Like a lion at my hands and my feet. And what some people have gone on to say is they said, this is how sometimes in Hebrew they translate it, like a lion are at my hands and feet. Because of this little difference. If you look at the Hebrew, you see this little difference between like a lion at my hands and my feet. But the way that the Christians have translated it, and it's not just the Christians, this is what's very important. It's not the Christians that originally translated it the way that we translate it today. The way we say it, when you read it in Psalm 22, it's they pierced my hands and my feet. And let me just bring that on. I just want because this is what the issue is about. It's Psalm 22, verse 16. And let's hide this one. And this is the way we say it. And this is the way they pierced my hands and my feet. Well, the interesting thing about this is that with the variant readings, like the guy said that there were variant readings in the ancient manuscripts about this word, and you could just see they look identical except for that little word there, that little letter. There are variant readings in ancient manuscripts which reflect the minor difference in the last letter at the end of the word, which changes the meaning accordingly. So it'll either mean like lions at my hands and feet, or they pierced my hands and feet. Well, the way there's kind of like a middle road to how some rabbis translated it, like lions mauled my hands and feet. So, the lions mauled or bit my hands, piercing my hands and feet. And so you got this little confusion. But what's interesting is what the Septuagint did. Now, the Septuagint is very interesting. Now, about 200 years before Jesus was born, the Jews translated the Torah and the Old Testament into Greek. They translated it into Greek, and they translated. And it's very interesting because there's many situations where they do this, where they seem to translate the Old Testament into the Christian doctrine. But the interesting thing, that the Jews are not going to translate the Old Testament to fit Christian doctrine 200 years before there was Christianity. This is 200 years before Jesus was born. And you'll see this situation in Psalm 40 and Hebrews 10. It's the same situation in Psalm 40 and Hebrews 10. In Psalm 40, David says, he says, sacrifice and offering that you did not delight, but my ears you have opened. And, and so it says in the original Hebrew, but my ears you have opened is what's called the synecdoche. And what it really means, that when they translated the Septuagint, they translated it into what it really means. And what it really meant is what is in Hebrews chapter 10. Sacrifice and offering you did not desire, but a body you have prepared for me. So a body you have prepared. Now, it wasn't the Christians that translated it that way in Hebrews 10. It was the Jews who translated that way 200 years before Jesus was born. And so with this situation, so it's an amazing that when the Jews who understood what the meaning of the words, my ear you have opened, they're the ones in the Septuagint who translated it into a body you have prepared for me, which is what you read in Hebrews chapter 10 when Paul, or the writer of Hebrews, quotes Psalm 40. Well, in this situation, the same thing happens again, which is that the Septuagint translators translated this phrase, which is, they pierced my hands and my feet. They're the ones who translated into, they pierced my hands and my feet. 200 years before Jesus was born, they did this. 200 years before Jesus was born, they translated the phrase that is in the Hebrew Psalms about which we in the Bible say in the Bible now reads, "They pierced my hands and my feet." Now, some of the Hebrew Bibles, if you read it, it's still going to say like a lion. But the Septuagint, which were Jews who were translating, some experts, like 70 Jewish scholars, translated the Hebrew Old Testament into Greek 200 years before Jesus. They're the ones who translated into, they pierced my hands and my feet. And so the difference in these two words, you know, most of us aren't Greek Hebrew scholars to be able to say. And you know what? People who want to say it doesn't mean, it means the lions or whatever, like some of the rabbis have said, they can go ahead and say that. But you know, there are variant readings of this word, and one word will say like lions, and one word will say pierced. But that the ones who translated, the Hebrew scholars who translated the Torah from Hebrew to Greek 200 years before Jesus, they're the ones who translated into, they pierced my hands and my feet. And you know, the way I see it is, and not my opinion matters much, I'm not a Hebrew scholar or anything, neither you know, are most of my cousins, who are the ones that brought this up, you know, because they got it from a website and I saw the website. But the thing that I see is that quite often in the Hebrew language and in the Middle Eastern languages, there are idioms and there are phrases that mean different things. If you translate them literally, they don't mean nothing. They're like idioms. For instance, in Arabic, we say, when somebody asks you to do something, you say the ayuni, you know, which means my eyes. So somebody asks you to do something and you say my eyes. And you say, well, what does that have to do? If we wrote that, you know, like in the Bible, you know, somebody asks you, please go bring somebody a glass of water, and you say my eyes. And you say, what? Not your eyes, your water. No, but in Arabic, what that means is I'm willing to give you anything, including my eyes, you know. Another thing in Arabic is somebody asks you to do something and you say arasi, ala rasi. That means on my head. Now you say that in English, that doesn't mean nothing. It's like, what are you talking about on your head? No, just go do this task. But when you're saying on my head, what you're saying is I'm taking the responsibility on myself. It's on my head, on the responsibilities on me. In English, for instance, if somebody has a price on their head, we say, you know, this person has a $60 million price on their head. Well, it's not just on their head, it's on their whole body. In fact, it's on their whole life. But that's what's called a synecdoche, which is that we use the part to mean the whole. We use the part to mean the whole. And so that's called a synecdoche, where you say he has a $60 million price on his head. No, he has a $60 million price on his life, but part of his life is his head. But we just say on his head. So that's what I call the synecdoche. And so anyway, that's the situation with Psalm 40 and Hebrews 10. And in this situation, the guys who translated it, the Hebrew scholars who translated the Septuagint from Hebrew into Greek, they knew the Hebrew. They knew what they meant. They knew what some of these idioms and what some of these symbols in the Old Testament meant a lot better than we do. And so when they translated David's words to "they pierced my hands and my feet," they knew what they were talking about. And they knew it much better than we do now, because they are much closer to the original Hebrew, the original writing of the Psalms. The Psalms were written 1,000 years before Jesus was born. The Septuagint was like 200 years before Jesus was born. So anyway, that's why you got these two words. Let me see if I could do this right. This one and that one, or that one and this one. These two words is the reason for the variant readings and why some of the confusion, why some say it's like a lion and some say it's pierced. But the ones who really understood this, which is the writers of Septuagint, who were real Greek Hebrew scholars, who were really Greek Hebrew scholars, these guys were real 70 Hebrew scholars. That's why it's called the Septuagint. They translated, "they pierced my hands and my feet." So I'm just doing this in response to my cousin, or I'm not even sure if he's a cousin, but he's been coming on my site, and he's the one who brought up this argument. So I just want to respond to him. Thank you for being with us, and have a great day. Jesus loves you. Make sure before you go to sleep tonight that you say, "Jesus, help me. Jesus, forgive me. Jesus, come into my heart. Jesus, help me. Jesus, forgive me. Jesus, come into my heart. Jesus, help me. Jesus, forgive me. Jesus, come into my heart."